You're listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We're glad you're here and believe you will be too. And now, Deidre Reigel with today's guest.
Hello, everybody listening to our podcast today. This is Deidre Reigel of the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio podcast, and I have the great delight today to have as my guest a gentleman named David Martinez. Now, before I engage him in conversation with me, let me just give you a quick rundown about David. He is an avid musician, composer, performer, instructor of classical jazz, contemporary music, and he is an instructor of vocal music as well. Most recently, he's become involved with the barbershop quartet variety of music, I think I say correctly. David holds a master's degree in keyboard performance, and I'm here to tell you this guy is a fabulous pianist as well as a composer. He and his wife, Melissa, love to travel and explore new places whenever they get the opportunity to, and they actually do quite a bit of traveling, which, as we know, gives us such a variety and a wonderful way of looking at life. David is a father to a soon-to-be one-year-old baby named Olivia, who David says does nothing else but inspire curiosity. And I will tell you also that David, in his spare time, enjoys photography and Disney going, searching for interesting decks of playing cards, as well as collecting and playing old video games from his childhood, is something else that David enjoys tremendously. I want to just tell you, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us today, that David and I met at Sarasota Players Theater in Sarasota, Florida, way back in 2004. And I had the privilege of him being in the orchestra pit of a show called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And we had such a good time working together, and we've done quite a bit of musical work together over the years. In fact, I was honored actually to be invited to their wedding, David and Melissa's wedding. And so David and I have maintained this wonderful friendship over the years. And I'm specifically inviting him to be part of this interview series because I believe David has something very important to say to us, especially coming from the male perspective. So with all that information I've given you about David Martinez, I am delighted to say hello to David. David, welcome to our show today.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be your guest.
Oh, it's just wonderful to have you here. So, David, as I said to the audience, you are a husband and a father in addition to all the other wonderful things that you have already accomplished in your life. And I'm specifically asking you to render the man's view of this seeming gap that we are experiencing on our planet, divide between masculine and feminine. So the first question I'd like to ask your opinion about is, do you feel it is still a man's world?
I don't think it is anymore. I think there's a lot that the female gender has risen to the occasion to be able to compensate for and to help out with and to complement the male gender. And it's just because there's so many things that women can do that men can do as well, or the vice versa, and other things that we don't always know what a woman's perspective is on, in particular, a field such as, I don't know, economics or politics or sociality. They harbor and just a different knowledge and a different sort of taste for what the roles are specifically assigned for now. I mean, women are holding higher positions in business, and even in politics. And I feel that it's okay. It's all right. It doesn't have to just be a world run by men because, we don't always know where to go. And I think it would be kind of exhausting to continuously pretend that you know where to go when you don't. That's what I think.
It's a wonderfully interesting answer, David. I know this wasn't on the list of questions that we had talked about that I would ask, but as a man, based on the feelings and the awareness that you have of how women have taken another place in our society, that's even greater than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Do you as a man find any of this threatening or confusing as women have risen to positions of power?
Well, as a if I were a little bit older and I were not it's a U.S. citizen, let's per se, I was an immigrant, then maybe I might find a little bit of a threat comes from that, since it's such a shift from the old school mentality and paradigm. But not being an immigrant, being firstborn generation Filipino American, I don't find that at all. It's more of a confidence and I would just say you feel like you could work more as a team as opposed to working contesting this between that and always being at odds or being on edge. And I think it's much better to combine knowledge, combine experience and ideas instead of always picking the one that's better. That's what I think.
That's such a refreshing answer to hear. And I know the times that you and I've worked together when I've been on the conductor's podium and you've been under my baton, there's never been any feeling of resentment or confusion that I've ever felt coming from you. And when the situation has been reversed, when you've been the leader and I've been the follower, it's just a natural thing. So it seems that in our working relationship over the years professionally, we've had this wonderful balance where we simply honor each other's strengths and capabilities in the moment and work together as a team rather than letting any fear, ego, or confusion get in the way. And I have really appreciated that luxury with you, David. And so I really appreciate your comments. Wow, this is very refreshing. So then obviously you, especially coming from the Filipino background and that culture, you have, I think, felt to me over the years that you're very well balanced in your masculine and feminine energies. And if I'm correct about that, how do you personally integrate your masculine and feminine energies?
It's almost, I don't even think about it. I remember when Melissa, when she didn't have any work, so, I'd have to step up to the plate and do what I can. But all I had was my music directorship over in the church where I was working. So, I had to, I'm going to shoulder the weight that quote unquote man's supposed to do right now, while she finds work. And or when she did, I was able to kind of step back a little bit and just kind of ride the wave because she is a very high money owner, high money breadwinner in her field. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with that, especially now that I am a full-time dad. I get to be the nurturing parent that I never had, that I wanted in the past. I get to spend the time that with my daughter that maybe wasn't available to my parents when I was growing up. And it's just a give and take. I feel that even though the give could be a whole generation ago, or the take could be a whole generation ago, the give could be now. It seems like it's a cycle and a wave that we pass through and just oscillate between without even thinking about it. So it's not a concrete or a hard line saying, okay, I'm going to use a little bit more softer things, more feminine things. Oh, all right, now I have to be more manly and be more rugged. And I feel that just mixing it up like a soup seems to be the best way to go. And I'll leave with that.
That's a beautiful analogy, David. That's beautiful. Having been part of your wedding, and I was so privileged to be invited, and the time that I spent getting to know Melissa, she's such a capable, competent, and confident woman. And I remember being at your wedding and watching that, and I thought, these are two equals who are coming to the table, bringing both of their gifts equally, and they are going to create a wonderful marriage and a wonderful family. And this is what you're saying to me, and this is so hopeful for for me as a woman, as a citizen of the planet, it's so hopeful to hear you express these opinions, because I think that we are creating a new paradigm between men and women, and I think we simply have to now. So these are very exciting answers that you're giving, and I'm very just happy to hear them. In our world today, what do you think we could do to close this gap that still seems to exist between men and women?
Well, like we were saying before, time and time again, the old paradigm must die, and it unfortunately, I think it's going to be a hard death. It's not going to be a smooth transition. It will take a lot of owning up on the the masculine or the male side in more than one area. It'll have to happen socially. It'll have to happen economically and politically. It just has to be, in other words, the minds have to open up and say, okay, it's time to move on. We need to let go of what is now out of date. There's so many social and economical things today that there's such a conflicting vibe between what's new and what's old, and the old has to give way to the new. They just have to say, okay, all right, now it's time for me to step down. I will step down in heart and in mind and in what I do. I feel that there's a lack of trust in what the new mentality is capable of doing and their potential. That's why.
Well, again, this was not one of my questions I was prepared to ask, but David, what could be done to build that trust, and could we women do anything that would be helpful in building that trust?
Well, I think the women are integral in. They're going to be very, very integral in creating the roots for that, because we have yet to have that many women political leaders in our country. That are looked up to, and I think that also in everyday life, to see a woman of power and to respect her for that, and look up to them. It's like seeing a policewoman and recognizing that, okay, this woman is a professional. She knows more than I do, and I respect her for that. Let her do her job. Let her trust that the good will come out, and the evil will kind of, go by the wayside. That will be forgotten.
Yes.
And the good has to be more, has to be recognized more in order for a step like that to take.
So you're really saying that we can support each other, we can simply show up in our best and highest energies and put our best foot forward at all times.
Yes, yes.
Amen to that. Amen to that, David. So your husband, and now I'm your father, what do you hope that your daughter's future will be that she can grow into?
I've been thinking about this one. I think it would be really neat if when her generation comes around and it's time for them to be the leaders and for them to be the frontiersmen and the record breakers and all of the anywhere in science or in just in life, just to figure out are able to think the way that we did not, and to take what we did wrong and make it right, but using it as a benchmark for, okay, this was done like this. And it was pretty effective, but what can we do to make it more effective, or what do we have to shift? So I'm hopeful for our kids to be able to not necessarily fix the errors and all of the everything that we did wrong, but to find a way to navigate it, because they will have to live with all of the things that are going wrong in the world today. We have no idea what the world is going to be like in 20 or 30 years. We don't. All we can do is prepare them. And always inspire the creativity and the the curiosity to always want and to know more. And I think that will be the driving force.
Well, I have a feeling you and Melissa are going to raise a daughter who is, as Melissa is, competent, capable, confident, strong. And you will show her the balance between masculine and feminine. The truth is, I believe that all of us have masculine and feminine energies within ourselves, and we're operating in whatever energy we need to be operating in for the moment or the task at hand. And my feeling is that you will, as I say, raise a daughter who's able to navigate and maybe even set the example for others. So the final question that I've got today, and this is probably a biggie, and I think something that you can speak to very well, David, and you've kind of set the stage for you to answer this question. What words of encouragement would you offer other men insofar as integrating their own feminine aspects of nurturing, expressing, and feeling, and actually showing up as leaders to create this new understanding between men and women? What words of encouragement do you have?
Well, what I've learned, this is going to be a very short answer, but I hope your listeners take, really just sit and think about it for a second. Pride should not be a selfish concept. Pride should be shared. So in order for pride to be shared, you just have to be open-minded. That's what I think.
Wow. I want to speak back something that you said because it just struck me as so powerful. Pride should be shared. So giving up the false pride of I am man, I'm the boss, and you women have to obey me, or whatever those terms are, and the feminine pride that says, I don't need a man, I can do it all on my own. I think I heard you say that pride of self, I'm going to translate it to self-confidence, if you will permit me, needs to be a shared thing between a man and a woman. That the man has his strength, the woman has her strength, and they share the pride and the self-confidence and the self-love in who they actually are. Would that be a fair speaking back and a fair estimation of what you said, David?
Yes, exactly. Why can't we be proud together of something that we've accomplished collectively?
Wow. Oh, David, I just love that so much. Thank you for speaking those words. So to the men who are listening to this, here's a great nugget of encouragement, being proud together. Wow. David, thank you so much for your wonderful time, your comments, your sincerity. Wow, I'm even more blown away than I thought I might be when you and I agreed to do this interview. And so I just want to tell the audience that David has given me many photographs to post along with this podcast. And so you'll see David with his family and with his friends, and just get a feeling for this wonderful man. And we'll also include on the podcast visuals how you might reach David through Instagram and chat with him further if you would like to. So, David, I want to say, again, a huge thank you to you for your time, your comments, and ladies and gentlemen, we have been listening to David Martinez today talk about how to close the gap between the masculine and feminine energies. David, I salute you. I say thank you, and I'd love for you to be on the show again at some point, and we'll check in about that. And ladies and gentlemen who've listened to this podcast, thank you so much. I wish you all sorts of goodness. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the show and host. This podcast and its content are not intended to diagnose or treat any medical or mental condition or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. You've been listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast and found inspiration for your own life. If you would like to be a guest on this show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. I'm Oliver Dill on behalf of all of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, wishing you a day full of joy and goodness.